Stay tuned for the Splash Live. It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. Thank you so much for joining us today, and alongside me, as always, Kevin McIntosh with us as well. Happy Friday, we made it, Kevin.
Hey, what's going on, Tyler, man? Another day, another opportunity. Happy to be here. And I wake up wondering, how is Friday considered part of the weekend if it's a work day and school day?
That is a hard-hitting question. I'll leave that to our audience to answer on their way through our community all throughout the day here on Civic Center TV and on 89.3 Lakes FM, and perhaps even contemplating that at home or in the office on our social media on Facebook at Civic Center TV 15 and on YouTube at Civic Center TV. Kevin, something that's been on our minds all throughout this week, really some tragic news that started the week off for us across the U.S. was the news of a tragic accident that happened at the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland. In fact, I had some family that was on a flight into Baltimore just earlier on this week who said as they flew into the airport, they saw the damage from below them. And it gets us thinking on the local level about our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, and our highways. And so joining us to talk about how our local infrastructure is both prepared for emergencies and constantly updated to be as safe as possible is Craig Bryson, Senior Communications Manager with the Road Commission for Oakland County. Craig, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on and to talk about a topic of importance at any time, but especially now after we've seen a tragedy like what has happened in the Baltimore area, the recent collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge leading to currently 6 fatalities, a number of injuries with recovery efforts still ongoing. And so as we focus in on that subject matter, our infrastructure, the safety of our roads and our bridges, how is that addressed and how is that updated quite consistently at the Oakland County level?
Well, first of all, as a matter of policy, safety is our number one priority. That's literally a policy of ours, that everything we do is dictated by safety. That ranges from project design to project selection to how our crews work when they're out in the field for their safety. Everything that we do is focused on the safety of both the motorists and the pedestrians and any other users of our road system. So everything we do is driven by an interest in safety. And a lot of that involves studying crash data. We were one of the first road agencies in the nation, really, to focus on crash data. And we closely scrutinize all of the crash data for serious injury crashes and fatalities that occur on our roads. We look at what happened, why it happened. Were there road-related factors that we can address through projects or signing or striping or, something else that we could do that could address those issues. And when there are, that becomes a top priority. Our project selection process, as I mentioned, is driven greatly by safety. We focus our money on projects that can do the most to improve safety for motorists and all other users of the road system. That is more important than any other factor, including road condition, congestion, those types of things. So safety guides everything we do. When it comes to bridges, we have a pretty good bridge system. For better or for worse, we don't have any bridges like the Francis Scott Key Bridge, obviously, in Oakland County. that span bodies of water that carry things like a freighter. But we are still concerned about the safety of our bridges. We don't want any bridges collapsing. So we inspect all of our bridges at least every 2 years. And that's a federal requirement that they be inspected every 2 years. If we see any deterioration, that frequency is increased. And then we monitor the bridges very closely when there is deterioration, up to and including the point of actually closing bridges. If they get past a certain point of deterioration, we think there's any risk at all, we'll close the bridge. Fortunately, we don't have any closed bridges right now, and we do a pretty good job of aggressively seeking state and federal funding to replace and repair bridges when needed.
And erring on the side of caution, as you said, is something that is paramount for the Road Commission for Oakland County, but also in your partnerships with state and federal partners that also oversee our local roads and our bridges and our highways. And it brings me kind of back to the only really similar incident, so to speak, and similar being probably too liberal of a word to be using in this scenario that we could have to what happened in Baltimore was a few years back when we had a tanker, I believe, on I-75 that had caught fire and had done some mostly external damage to the bridge and to that particular area of I-75. However, that was then addressed quite extensively from the Road Commission's perspective, from MDOT and more. And so as we think about the recent collapse, how does that influence the perspective even greater for our local roads, our bridges, and our infrastructure in Oakland County, and what more can be done to investigate that and to make improvements as needed?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's obviously a very sober reminder that safety has to remain our top priority. And I think all of us around here, of course, our hearts go out to the family and friends of those lost at the Francis Scott Key Bridge. But it's such a sobering reminder that everything we do has an impact on safety, and therefore we can't cut corners. We can't let cost issues cause us to make bad decisions related to safety. Everything has to be mandated by safety. And you're right, the 9 Mile Road overpass on I-75 was a great example, and that ended up costing a lot of money, and it was a tragic case as well. But I think MDOT did a good job of responding to that and doing what needed to be done to fix that situation. We're just, it just reminds us that that crash data is just critical. We have to be data driven. And that crash data is just very telling about where there are issues and what those issues are. And that's the Bible to us, following that data wherever it leads us and doing what that data tells us needs to be done.
And that's had already quite an influence on our local roads, particularly here in the greater West Bloomfield area. We think about the improvements that have been made in recent years and recently completed on Orchard Lake Road in the Kegel Harbor and Sylvan Lake area in the Tri-Cities. That was heavily driven by data, not only from your own research, but also from data from input and surveys from residents and locals who are frequently trafficking that area.
Absolutely. And all of the design of that project, the whole Orchard Lake corridor, including 14 Mile, Maple, all of those, the roundabouts that went in there, that was all driven by a safety concern. Secondarily, that also looked to relieve congestion, but safety was a huge part of that. I'll even bring up the example of M5 and Pontiac Trail, where we built a roundabout at that intersection. That was driven by a tragic history of fatalities when that was a signalized intersection. You had M5, a state highway, literally dead ending at a county road. And people coming off that road, even though it's not truly a freeway, it's still a divided highway. And people would go way too fast up to that intersection, and we had a number of fatalities there. We put that roundabout in with the goal of eliminating those fatalities, and fortunately, there have not been any fatalities since that roundabout went in. So it's safety is the factor that drives those things.
We're joined by Craig Bryson, Senior Communications Manager with the Road Commission for Oakland County, as we take a focus on our road infrastructure for our roads, our bridges, our highways here in Oakland County in the wake of the tragic events that happened earlier on this week at the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland. And Craig, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg had mentioned the complexity of rebuilding efforts, particularly in the context of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, but also expanding that outward to rebuilding and renovation and improvement efforts across much of our road and other infrastructure. So how does that kind of parallel, that conversation kind of parallel the challenges we may continue to be facing in the future here in Oakland County as those improvements continue to be studied and ultimately implemented by the Road Commission for Oakland County and its partners?
Well, that's a great point. And, of course, one of the challenges that sometimes prevents us from doing the things we would like to do and could do is money. And money is a constant challenge. These types of reconstructions, I mean, we're not talking anything on the scale of the Francis Scott Key Bridge here, but we have some significant projects that we would like to do, and they all cost a lot of money. And a lot of times for those major projects, it's federal money, and that's very competitive to get those federal dollars. There simply aren't enough to go around. And that's a constant challenge. We work constantly with both our state and federal legislators to try to draw their attention to the projects here in Oakland County, and generally we've been pretty successful. And both our state and federal legislators have been very supportive of the things we do. We've gotten a number of federal special grants just to augment safety here in Oakland County. We believe we're a leader in the country for a county level road agency as far as safety innovations, and we're going to continue to aggressively seek those state and federal dollars that allow us to do that. But there's never enough to do as much as we would like to do.
And we know, Craig, that efforts are being made to improve a lot of our highway on and off ramps especially, and that's kind of where we get that biggest parallel to the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Is the major bridge areas of our local communities tend to be on those highway entrances and exits or highway underpasses. And so we think about some of the more common or more likely scenarios where an accident could happen that could affect the sanctity of those roads and bridges. Maybe it's a large truck, a semi-truck that has miscalculated its size and taken a bad route and may get stuck or may impact one of our local bridges, maybe off the highway or even as they go toward it. In the event that something like this happens and there is just a basic emergency response, or it could be a major emergency response, how does partnership between the Road Commission for Oakland County for the infrastructure itself and local emergency services and beyond all coalesce to create a situation that hopefully saves as many lives and prevents as much loss as possible?
Absolutely. Those partnerships are critical. And we've got a really good partnership with the Michigan Department of Transportation. They own the freeways. We maintain them for them. If there is an incident, we're often one of the first entities to respond to try to clean up the mess. And if there's debris or spills or something like that, as long as it's not hazardous, we'll be out there cleaning up, trying to restore the road. We work closely with law enforcement all across the 60 plus communities in Oakland County. We have great relationships with them. Those partnerships are key. Oftentimes it requires a partnership between law enforcement and a road agency to address either challenges or sometimes to prevent those situations from occurring or to resolve them and restore traffic once they do occur. So we really value those partnerships. That's just part of our philosophy that all the communities in the county are our partners. We meet with them regularly. Our staff meets with them often on a weekly basis just to keep those channels of communication open and to make sure we're aware of their concerns and address those concerns whenever we can.
Craig Bryson is with us, Senior Communications Manager with the Road Commission for Oakland County. Craig, all this does ultimately tie back to the public as well. They're the ones that would be most affected by any road construction projects, certainly would be most affected from a safety standpoint by improvements being made to our local roads or bridges, highways, and other critical infrastructure of the like. So how can the public be helpful for the Road Commission for Oakland County, for your partners at MDOT and beyond in preserving these safety efforts going forward and helping us keep our infrastructure safe for the general public?
Great question. So one of the things that we often do when we're planning a project is have a public information meeting. And sometimes that's just sharing information if it's a fairly straightforward project that we're planning. But other times it's to solicit input from the users of the system who may be familiar with some aspect of the system or how it functions that we're not. And we want to learn what those people can tell us. So we appreciate any input we get from the people. If people see an issue or a challenge, we encourage them to please let us know as soon as possible. You can do that by calling us at 877-858-4804 or go to our website and either send us an email or fill out a form. That's rcocweb.org. And any, we're out on the roads all the time, but we can't be everywhere all the time. And we count on the public to be our eyes and ears wherever they're out there. And we appreciate any and all feedback we get from them, especially when it's on a potential safety issue.
Yeah, even if it just seems like it's a superficial blemish on the bridge, it could be something that may be a symptom of something bigger. And at the very least, the worst case that could happen there would be that you say nothing and something bad happens. The best case in that scenario is you report it. It is a whole lot of nothing, and we all continue on as we are. Craig, anything else for us on these sorts of issues that we haven't discussed yet today that would be important for the public to keep in consideration?
No, just to reiterate that this was a terrible tragedy at Francis Scott Key Bridge, but the one, if there is any silver lining, it's that it reminds all of us that safety and infrastructure are critically important, and that we have to continually we have to be relentless in our focus on safety for those of us who manage the infrastructure and who work with the infrastructure and the public that relies on it.
Absolutely. Craig, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for your insight.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have you on with us, Craig, and the whole team over at the Road Commission for Oakland County. Again, rcocweb.org for more information on projects and ways you can communicate with them going forward. Kevin, really important, especially after what happened in Baltimore as we began this week, that we keep in mind safety on our local level. And that does often begin with the public pointing out these little issues that could eventually snowball into bigger issues. And then, of course, it's always good to know that we have that communication from our local road commission and our cities and other municipalities that are keeping up to date, even when they don't necessarily need to, but before they need to on these issues.
Tyler, I'm so glad that you took time to speak with Craig Bryson of the Road Commission of Oakland County, because as soon as I saw that video of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, I just said, wow. And with us being a Great Lakes state, we have a lot of bridges, especially in the greater West Bloomfield area. We have a lot of boats. So I'm wondering about our boats, our bridges, our safety, and our roads immediately after that. And he definitely reassured me that we are good and handling things in the right direction, man. So great interview, Tyler. Great interview.
Thank you. Yeah, and as Craig had said in our conversation there, most of what we have around our area bridge-wise would be something like a pedestrian bridge or a highway bridge, but it's important to keep up to date on those as well, because when accidents happen, tragedies can also happen, and prevention is often the best intervention that you can make. So great to have a conversation with Craig on that issue. Kevin, here in our communities, there's so many people that are doing amazing things every single day. They're giving their time, their energy, and their heart to the community. And so when we lose one of those incredible volunteers, it hits our community here in the greater West Bloomfield area very hard. One of those volunteers that we recently lost suddenly was Sherry Ann Winter, who passed away suddenly at the end of February earlier on this year. She will be honored on Monday evening at the West Bloomfield Township Board of Trustees meeting, 6 o'clock p.m. right here on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Joining us to talk about the life and the legacy of Sherry Ann Winter is someone that worked very closely with her in the volunteer space in our community. Vincent Kirkwood was her co-chairperson for the West Bloomfield Diversity Task Force. Welcome to the show, Vincent. And first, let's begin with your work with Sherry Ann Winter on the Diversity Task Force. Take us through your journey with Sherry Ann as you two helped to build this task force with the community and the impact that she's had on greater West Bloomfield.
Well, I'll start by saying that we've lost. It's with heavy hearts that we've lost Sherry Ann, and her impact is going to always remain in West Bloomfield, with the task force, with the school board, with the parent network, and so many of the things that she did. We're never going to lose that. But it is very sad that she is now no longer with us. The diversity task force is what I can speak on the most with Sherry. Uh, Years ago, I think it was in 2020, I emailed the executive director, and remember that I'm the Parks and Rec commissioner as well.
Yes.
But I emailed as a resident, and I said, we want to do something, or I want to do something that reflects the community as it relates to diversity. And before I made that call, I called Sherry, and I said, Sherry, this is what I'm thinking. And she gave me some pointers, she gave me some tips, and she was an advocate for it, which is one of the reasons why I pursued it. Once we started moving forward with plans to create this diversity task force, Sherry Ann was the very first resident, very first person that was a volunteer with me on this task force. And ever since then, she's been a huge advocate. She's been a worker. She's been a leader, a true community leader as it relates to the diversity task force.
And that energy and enthusiasm you speak of when you talk about the early days of the task force, building that into being a task force at all altogether in our community, that really does reflect the energy and the enthusiasm that Sherry Ann approached everything that she did, especially when it came to serving her community and her neighbors.
Absolutely. There would be no task force without Sherry Ann. Just her input, her enthusiasm, as you mentioned, her impact, her energy, whether it be events, whether it be thought leadership, all of those things that you need, she possessed and she brought to the table. One of the things that I'm affiliated with a lot of extracurricular activities and boards and things like that. But I always say I don't want to be a part of it if I can't work and do the things that impact the community, that impact the group. Sherry was that way. She didn't want to do anything unless it was really impacting, unless she was really having a voice. And everything she did, she made sure she had a voice, whether it was Toastmasters, whether it was dealing with the West Bloomfield Community School Group with her children, whether it was being a mom, the task force, and everything else she was a part of. She really impacted it. It wasn't just, I'm doing this to just be doing it, but she did it to make a difference. And she made a difference in all of the things that she did.
We're talking with Vincent Kirkwood, the co-chairperson of the West Bloomfield Diversity Task Force, as we recognize the life and the memory and the legacy of Sherry Ann Winter, who passed away suddenly in late February. She was a longtime member of our West Bloomfield Diversity Task Force, really from the very beginning, and had such an impact across our community in a number of volunteer areas. Her life, her legacy will be recognized in a proclamation to be read at the April 1st meeting of the West Bloomfield Township Board. That will be broadcast live right here on Civic Center TV and on 89.3 Lakes FM. And Vincent, you talk about working with her and the way that she approached her volunteer work in the community. And that's what this was. We want to really recognize that she is giving her time and her energy and her heart into putting everything that she did into helping other people in our community and advancing our community. And as someone that does a lot of that himself, what did you learn from working with someone like Sherry Ann and her approach to community service?
One of the rare qualities that I think was one of her best qualities is her ability to connect with people on a personal level. So I think, we talk about what we're going to do for the community. We talk about how we're going to impact those around us. However, she was able to do that with a personal touch. And that's what I loved about her, is that she would, talk about all the things that we needed to speak about and the differences that we needed to make and things like that. But she would also, I'm going to get a little personal. She would bring peaches over to my home for my kids and my family. We would talk about the task force. We would talk about the schools. We would talk about things we wanted to do on Parks and Rec Commission. But then at night, after our conversation, she would come over and say, hey, I just dropped some peaches off to you and the family. So she had a mix between the work that she wanted to do in the community, but also had that personal touch. And if you look at and listen to all of the things that were said about Sherry over the last month or so, those are some of the things that you'd hear. You'd hear her personal relationships and how she was able to include that into her work in the community. So if you're in the community and you hear about her, you're going to hear personal stories as well. You're going to hear how she impacted the community with the West Bloomfield Diversity Task Force, Toastmasters, West Bloomfield Parent Association Network. But you'll also hear how she was able to connect with you on a personal level. I'll give you one more example. We were at the Juneteenth Expo, and I was with my son, who's 5 years old, and I saw Sherry, and we talked. And my son was, he wanted his mom, of course. And Sherry took him, and I said, Sherry, he doesn't need anything. He doesn't need any chips or juice or smoothie or Slurpee or anything like that. She was like, oh, he's with me, he's fine. So maybe 15 or 20 minutes go by, and then she takes him. He comes back with a smoothie, chips, all of the things that I said he didn't need. And I said, Sherry, he didn't need all this. She said, he was with me, he's fine. And she wanted, and he would call her Auntie Sherry. And I told, in our community, we put a handle on the name. So it was Auntie Sherry. And he wanted to go with her. And she treated him as though he was her own. Same situation that happened when we were at the splash pad. He wanted to go play, and Sherry took him. And I mean, that's just the kind of person she was. We talked about community, we did community work, we made an impact, but her personal touch was remarkable. It was delightful, and I'm going to miss that about her.
Yeah, she really had a way to make you feel like you were part of her heart and you were part
Absolutely.
of what she wanted the world to look like in a way that was always going to be positive and always going to be impactful. I think about my last interaction with Sherry Ann was at the 2024 Black Expo, which was something that she took under her wing and made incredible in 2024, as she had in years before, with the help of so many other volunteers on the West Bloomfield Diversity Task Force and throughout the community. The second we locked eyes when I got to the event, she's coming up immediately and saying, how can I help you? What do you need? Do you need someone to talk to? I was looking for people to speak with, and I'm pretty good at picking that up and figuring out interesting people to talk to in these situations, and been doing this for a long time. But she was so encouraging with those people that seemed a little bit nervous and said, no, you're in good hands here. This is someone you want to be talking to. He's going to take care of you. You're in good hands. Trust me. I know, I've been in that situation. And that was super helpful for our team on this side in putting that story together. And really just, I think, like your stories, exemplifies what Sherry Ann Winter was all about. We're joined by Vincent Kirkwood. He is the co-chairperson of the West Bloomfield Diversity Task Force, and is also a commissioner on the West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation Commission. We're talking about the life and the legacy of Sherry Ann Winter, who suddenly passed away in late February. She will be recognized for her impact on our community by the West Bloomfield Township Board at their April 1st Township Board meeting. That is this coming Monday, April 1st at 6 p.m. That will be broadcast live on Civic Center TV on 89.3 Lakes FM and on our website. And Vincent, you talked about what you've learned from Sherry Ann over the years. But as we hear more of these stories, and we certainly will at that township board meeting, I would imagine in the public comment portion, as so many have told their stories of the impact Sherry's had on them. What do you hope, as people hear these stories, as they learn more about Sherry Ann, as they reflect on maybe their own interactions with Sherry Ann, what do you hope that they have taken away from her life story, although way too short of a life story?
Absolutely. Sherry is the example. She was the example of a community leader. And she started in ways that, small impact. And I think that she wasn't a board member. She wasn't a trustee. She wasn't even a parks commissioner. But her impact, it was far greater than a lot of those that are on these boards and that do this work. And I think the most important part of what we can take away from Sherry is that how you can start small and have small impact, and it turns into great success. And I think that is an example that we can take from Sherry. If you want to do something, don't just talk about it, but do it. And start in a small way. Talk to certain people that will be advocates. The Black Expo you mentioned, Tyler, is something that we started in 2021, I believe. And if you look at the progression and where we've come from that was all Sherry. She started that, she grew that, she wanted that to be great. And if you look at 2024, and I wasn't in attendance, and I called Sherry about a week or two before the Black Expo, and I said, Sherry, I'm going to go to the Super Bowl, so I won't be at the Black Expo. And she was like, Vincent, we got it handled. We got it. And I hear that this was one of the best expos that we've had in the last 3 years, and she took that and ran with that. But it started small. She looked for vendors. She looked for what she included the West Bloomfield. I believe it was the jazz band last year and the year before. Um, and then now look at it. And I think that stems from wanting to make an impact, wanting to start small, but having a great success story, great impact on what you're trying to do. So I think the thing that to take away um, from Sherry is that you can be great. You can be a great community leader. You could be a great community servant leader. It just takes that next step. And Sherry took that step, and we're so grateful for it. The city, I'm sorry, the township, the residents, her anybody she worked with, we're really grateful for her taking those steps that she took in order to be who she was.
You find some way, any way that you can make a positive impact on somebody, on your community, and you go at it with everything in your heart. That's definitely what Sherry Ann did. She ran for school board. She didn't end up on the school board. Still got involved as a PTO president, as the president of the West Bloomfield African American Parent Network, kept being heavily involved in that, and it was someone that showed how much she cared by action, not just by words, but
Yes.
by action. And that action typically was through other people. We're giving her so much credit and very much due for her work on the West Bloomfield Diversity Task Force. But really, I think the largest impact she made was that inspiration through her volunteerism for others that are volunteering or others that are just getting involved to understand that they can really have a massive impact by, as you said, making those small efforts here and there to help out people in their community.
And that's what she did. I mean, she was involved in so much and made an impact and so much in effort. That's who she was, and the community needs that. The community needs to embrace that and continue the legacy that Sherry Ann had. I know I've got more work to do. Um, the others in the community have more work to do, and we're willing to do that. We're willing to step up. We're willing to say, you know what, Sherry's not here with us anymore, but this is what she would have done. This is how she would have handled this situation, and this is how she would have impacted this event. And I think we're going to take that and be able to move forward through her legacy, and that's going to give us the hope that we need in the community to know that Sherry Ann did so much and was so active and had such a great impact. And we're really going to miss that about her.
Yeah, the loss of Sherry Ann Winter, a massive loss for our community, but the impact that she's had and the ways that she has inspired people to live life kind of as she did throughout her although abbreviated life and time here in West Bloomfield. That's what's going to be the lasting impact. That's what that recognition is for, and we'll have a chance to recognize her even further Monday, April 1st, 6 o'clock p.m. at West Bloomfield Town Hall. They will read a proclamation recognizing the life and legacy of Sherry Ann Winter. That will be with us live on TV, radio, and on the web through Civic Center TV. We're joined by Vincent Kirkwood, co-chairperson of the West Bloomfield Diversity Task Force, as we talk about the life and the legacy of Sherry Ann Winter in Greater West Bloomfield. Vincent, before we let you go, any lasting thoughts or anything else that you would like to say about Sherry Ann as we recognize her memory?
We talk about her work in the community and we talk about all of the things that she did, but let's not forget that Sherry Ann was a mother. She was a mother of two, and and she was a sister, she was a daughter, she was a friend, she was a mentor, she was all of these things. So I think it's really important to understand that, and huddle around her family, huddle around her children, those who see her children in the community, whether it be at school, the splash pad, the community, the rec center, whatever it is, the library. I think that as a community, we need to huddle around her and her family during this time, because it's going to be an everlasting impact for her family, those who are close to her. So in addition to understanding and recognizing her impact in the community, I think it's important to understand that she was a mom, and that I think what we can do is huddle around her family and her children and always be there to support them in this tough time.
It's a time for our community to love her family as she loved our community like it was her family. Vincent, thank
Yes.
you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Glad to talk to Vincent Kirkwood about the immense impact of Sherry Ann Winter on our community. And again, that proclamation will be read by the Township Board on Monday, as he said, as we, as a community, rally around her family in their time of need. This loss, almost 2 months, almost over a month since now at this point, but that the impact only starting to ripple through our community and through her family. So our thoughts continue to be with Sherry Ann's family, and we will recognize her here on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM on Monday evening. Kevin, also some things making a lot of buzz in the community has been this upcoming solar eclipse. It's big news. Everybody's talking about it, and while we're not going to be in the so-called path of totality, we're not going to be in entire darkness for several minutes on end on April 8th when this eclipse comes through. We're really close by. A lot of people are interested in this, and so I want to get the people informed about how they can participate, whether they do so here in the greater West Bloomfield area or they go and travel into that path of totality.
Oh, Tyler, man, as a kid who used to look up and stare at the stars and the moon and also stare at the sun, I had to be told not to do so. This is the opportunity to actually kind of look at the sun, but don't take my word for it. This is why we have a professional here. And currently joining us, we have Solar Outreach Associate for the Oakland Astronomy Club, Matt Shea, joining us to talk about the upcoming eclipse. Thank you for joining us, Matt.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, guys.
Matt, listen, I want to pick your brain so much about what we have going on. So I believe it's scheduled for us to be able to view it here in Michigan on Monday, April 8th, if I'm not mistaken, the solar eclipse. Now, can you just talk about technically what a solar eclipse is? And then I'll get into my other questions. I have so many.
Okay, sure thing. So, a solar eclipse is very simply when the moon is directly between the sun and the earth. The eclipse is the shadow of the moon as it passes over the earth. I will add here, eclipses happen when the sun, the moon, and the earth are in perfect synergy, fancy word for alignment. An eclipse just means that one celestial body is casting a shadow on another celestial body. Sometimes our moon is in the shadow, and sometimes the earth is in the shadow, like will happen on April 8th.
Nice. Okay, so all right. So with that being said, that makes perfect sense. Understood that. But here's my thing. When I was coming up, it was to my understanding, and maybe I just understood wrong, that eclipses are very rare. Like you would see it, or maybe it would happen once, maybe twice in a lifetime. But now I feel like they're happening every 4 years, like the Olympics. Now, are they really rare? What is considered rare? Like, is it just common? Like, can you just debunk that for me, please?
Absolutely. So I will say that solar and lunar eclipses are not rare, and they can happen between 4 and 7 times a year. But solar eclipses are thought of as rare because about 71% of the Earth is covered by water. So relatively few eclipses happen where people can easily view them. Additionally, statistically speaking, some eclipses happen during the cloudy winter months. I think the reason we hear more about them is because of the internet, because we're more connected and we can experience eclipses from around the globe much easier. I'll finish this part by saying, while eclipses are not rare, having them happen right on our doorstep is really cool. With any luck, we might also have good weather for viewing on the 8th.
Yeah, no, I hear we're supposed to be at least inching a little bit closer towards the 50s or 60s during that time. But great information, Matt. Great information, because I don't know where I got that myth from that they only happen once or twice in a lifetime.
We all think that until you see a map showing eclipses around the globe. and you'll see that they're happening all the time. But again, most of them are over water.
Ooh, it'd probably be so nice to be out on the water and then see the eclipse. And it's just water around. That's
That'd be
probably a
fantastic.
beautiful view too. I know,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so Matt, I want to ask also. So I'm hearing that you can only see it in certain places. Like you said, you can only see it in water in certain places. So is this Monday, April 8th time solar eclipse the one opportunity where us people in Michigan, maybe specifically West Bloomfield, can see this eclipse, or where's the region where we can actually see it?
Well, if you're a patient, we'll have another one in the area in 2045. It's a little long to wait, though.
Okay.
I have good news, though. Everybody in the continental US will actually see the eclipse on the 8th. Most people will see a partial eclipse, which is caused when the sunlight is only partially blocked by the moon, and we just get a crescent of the sun showing through. We call this region where everybody can see a partial eclipse is the penumbra. People directly under the full shadow of the eclipse, which is caused when all the sunlight is blocked by the moon, will see the full eclipse. We call this region the umbra, and that's a much smaller portion of the path. Anyone within the umbra is within the path of totality. We call it totality because the sunlight is totally blocked.
Right.
So let's talk the region here. Lower Michigan will absolutely witness the partial eclipse.
Okay.
Most people will see between 90 and 98% of the shadow. I do want to mention, though, be prepared for traffic. 298 million people live within driving distance for the path of totality. And in 2017, we had another eclipse in the US, and I was at that one. I can tell you that traffic extended for hours. One statistic I particularly remember is in the Denver Post reported that a road crossing in Wyoming had traffic increase by 821%. And
in Wyoming.
Yeah. The local sheriff actually said it took 5 days for the traffic to build, but as soon as the eclipse was done, everybody left at exactly the same time.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And then driving back, we had about a 45-minute drive back to the hotel in 2017, and it took us 5 hours. Ooh. And don't forget, we thought, because we grew up there, we thought we knew all the back roads and we'd be sneaky and we'd get through that. Because all of your neighbors know exactly those same back roads.
Okay, that's an interesting thing to point out too. The traffic to wherever the most popular part is for the eclipse too. So that's something for people to know. Joining us. Oh, go
one
ahead,
safety note: if you're stuck in a traffic jam on the highway and you have little ones or older folks, it may be difficult to get to the bathroom. So just plan ahead. Think about that before jumping into the traffic jam.
Yeah, good point. See, and that's why we have you here. Once again, Solar Outreach Associate for the Oakland Astronomy Club, Matt Shea, joining us, talking about the upcoming eclipse that we can see on April 8th. Matt, I want to also ask you this too, right? Because that was a great point that you just pointed out. The fact that it built a lot of traffic, a lot of people wanted to see this in the most popular spot in the area, and then soon as it was over, it was over. Like people just dispersed like that. So how long does an eclipse last? Is it for a split second? How do people enjoy it? Are we just getting pictures? Are people, just coming outside, enjoying the earth? How do you enjoy the eclipse?
Well, so the best way to enjoy the eclipse is to get some solar safe glasses. Every public library in America is handing those glasses out, by the way. And then you can just step outside and watch the eclipse. The eclipse is actually several hours long. In West Bloomfield, the shadow of the moon is going to start to cover the sun at 1:58 p.m. The maximum amount of coverage, which is 98.1%, the maximum amount will happen at 3:14 p.m. So already you've got about an hour and a quarter to watch the sun get covered. And then the eclipse will be complete about 4:26 p.m. And that's when the shadow of the moon moves away from us.
In the middle of the day like that. That's kind of crazy. I can't wait to see it now, man. Oh, that's what's up, man. I'm excited. I'm excited. So okay, and these glasses.
Yeah.
These glasses. Thank you for telling me. Because I had no idea. So even though the sun is being blocked by the moon, we still can't we're not supposed to advise to look directly at it. Why is
Right.
this? Can you please, Matt?
I can. This is a really important point. I'm going to get serious for a moment.
Okay.
Our eyes do not have pain receptors. We don't know when they're being damaged when you look at the sun. So even though less than 2% of the sun will be visible in West Bloomfield, it is far too much to look at safely. And there was an old saying when I grew up that you could put on welder's glasses and view the sun during a solar eclipse. Also, not true.
Wow.
There are reports this year that there are knockoff solar glasses being sold cheaply. I would not get solar glasses personally at corner market or gas station or anything. I would go to your local library, or I would check the NASA homepage, and they have a list of approved vendors with expedited shipping where you can get them.
Great information. Great point too, man. Okay, so there's not only should you get these solar glasses to look at the eclipse, but there's certain solar glasses from certain retailers and brands that you should consider.
Approved, right? Not knockoffs.
Correct. Right,
And then
right.
another thing you can do is there are going to be hundreds of people live streaming the eclipse all the way from Mexico up through Canada. One particular thing that I will be watching will be a hot air balloon project from the University of Colorado, I believe. We can take a giant balloon, a really cool camera, and a cellular access point, and go up a couple thousand feet and film the shadow as it moves across the ground. So that's going to be really cool to watch.
Ooh, that's nice. See, this is why we have you here, Matt. See, so you can give us that key information just in case we want to see it from another perspective.
Yeah.
That's going to be groundbreaking.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. Great. No, I completely understand, Matt. Any final thoughts that you want to share for us? Anything that we didn't go over? Any other information that you want to give to people? Any way people can reach out to you?
I am with, as you said, the Oakland Astronomy Club, oaklandastronomy.net. We are open to the public. We invite the public to come to our meetings every month. Our schedule is posted on our website. We invite the public to come to our open viewing days. If you'd like to look through a telescope at night, come on, join us. Look through a whole bunch of telescopes, especially if you have kids and you think they might want to get involved in astronomy. It's nice to let them see what they can actually view. It sets their expectations. Other than that, for everybody on Eclipse Day, I just want you to enjoy it. Whether you drive down into Ohio to see the path of totality, or whether you stay here, view it from your porch and online, enjoy the moment. They, as you say, they're relatively rare for any point on Earth. We only actually get an eclipse on any given point about once every 3 centuries. So in that respect, it is rare, but it's also cool.
Right? I know. It's just a point for us to just connect with nature, connect with the earth, the space, the galaxy. Right. We're all connected to a timeless understanding. I genuinely believe that. Matt Shea from the Solar Outreach Associate from the Oakland Astronomy Club joining us, just talking about the eclipse. Matt, I could sit here and ask you 1,000 more questions, but I know we have to go. Thank you again for your time, sir. I appreciate you.
Absolute. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Man,
yeah, such a genuine conversation, man. My curiosity as a kid just kept running, but like I was genuinely one of those kids who would, and I still today stare at the stars, stare at the moon, and I try not to stare at the sun nowadays, Tyler, but I still find myself just glazing at it, man. I'm in love with the view.
Yeah, and everyone seems to be. It's such a hot topic right now because it is something so unique and so interesting that for some of us this might be the first time we will experience an eclipse at all in our lives. For those that maybe have just moved to Michigan, maybe it's the first time that we'll experience, or the only time we'll experience a almost total eclipse over us here in the greater West Bloomfield area. It's a rare event. People are getting involved. I've had conversations even with people in our community, like our clerk, Debbie Binder, who's talking about, there are people that are getting groups together. We're going to try to get some of them on, getting groups together to go travel to the path of totality to see the entire eclipse from right here in our community. And the fact that we're going to have not the entire path of totality. We're not going to be in the path of totality, but we'll be almost there, and we'll be able to see that progression over those hours, as Matt said. Really going to be an interesting day here in the greater West Bloomfield area on Eclipse Day, Monday, April 8th. Kevin, a great conversation there with Matt.
Absolutely, Tyler. Yeah, man, I was excited. I'm glad he gave us a lot of information, and I'm glad he told me about the solar glasses. Like, I heard of the glasses before, but I'm gonna be honest, I probably would have paid no more attention to it other than the fact that he just gave us that information. So please, not just regular sunglasses, not just some cheap glasses that may say they are. Make sure they're from an authorized dealer also.
Yeah, and the West Bloomfield Township Public Library, I know that they have in the past and most recently at one of their events with parks and with the Oakland Astronomy Club did provide some of those solar eclipse glasses. So you may want to contact them. I'm sure they are only as supplies last, wblib.org, or Facebook at West Bloom LIB for more information. And of course, we'll keep up to date on this as we get closer to Eclipse Day, just a little bit over a week away on April 8th, 2024. Live, local, social, it's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Still a lot more to get to on the program. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live.
Good nutrition can help make sure you have enough iron, calcium, and vitamin C in your body, which can make it harder for lead to enter your bloodstream. Help protect your family from the harmful effects of lead.
1 in 4 Michigan homes has high levels of radon, a naturally occurring radioactive gas known to cause lung cancer. It doesn't matter where you live or what type of home you have. You won't even know it's there unless you test. So don't wait. Testing is cheap and easy. And if there's a problem, it's simple to fix. Visit michigan.gov/radon to learn more.
We took action. Will you?
Find local municipal meetings at our program schedule on civiccentertv.com. Find when your meetings air live or when they're replaying on our Civic Center TV live stream. Find it all at civiccentertv.com and click schedule at the top of the screen. And now, back to The Splash, live.
Live, local, social, it's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Happy Friday, folks. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside Kevin McIntosh. And Kevin, it's always something that's on the mind of people in our community. It's a very environmentally conscious community we have here in the greater West Bloomfield area. They're trying to find new ways to do the same old tasks, but in a way that's more ecologically friendly and keeping in mind natural products as well that are both good for them and for the environment. And now, Kevin, a local business has moved in to try to take that approach in the dry cleaning business here in the greater West Bloomfield area. Reporter Jake Schaff from our team has the story.
A fast and eco-friendly way to get your laundry done. That's what you can expect at Lapels Cleaners, which just opened up a new location in West Bloomfield. I had the chance to speak with their owner to learn about their processes and to find out just how they plan to revolutionize the future of dry cleaning. I read that you guys utilize something called the Green Earth cleaning process. Could you explain that a little more?
It came out I think it was the year 2000, and that is using the silicone and sand as opposed to using fuel or alcohol base to wash your clothes. Clean your garments. It will go through the process. There's wet clean and dry clean, mattering on the type of stains and what's wrong with the clothes or what type of material it is. Goes through that process of cleaning. Think about, just your normal laundry, going into the washer. It gets cleaned with the solution. Sometimes you'll see, so if you ever get into a plant where they're using like a steamer to clean the garments, and then it'll come out, and then it goes through your dry phase, and then if it's wet cleaned, and then it goes through the press and all of that. The benefit of using this over other solutions too is over time it's not as harmful to your clothes. So alcohol and fuel wears and tears more on your clothes than the green clean would. So it actually won't. Let's just say over time you start to get your clothes start to get looking like the beat up and worn look and all that. This won't do it as sooner as the other products would. Lapels Cleaners is a green clean. Most of your cleaners historically and even now till today use a fuel or alcohol base. We take a green approach, healthier for the environment, 100% healthy, 100% sustainable. The other chemicals are harmful to breathe in. These are not harmful to breathe in. And even when you get your clothes back, it has a different scent, which is something more enjoyable than what you've previously come to experience with other clothing and garments that you would get from other dry cleaners.
What are some simple ways customers can continue to help the earth with cleaning?
Read the back of the bottles, look at new options that are out there, get online and research different ways. But, moving forward in the world, we should definitely look at different options than the old historic ways of cleaning because, as we know, the old ways were bad for the environment and they're bad for us, especially health-wise.
Fascinating methods are in play here at Lapels as they plan to change the game when it comes to dry cleaning and plan to continue making the earth just a little bit greener. For Civic Center TV, I'm Jake Schaff.
Appreciate that report from our Jake Schaff. And a really interesting thing that's going on here in our community over there at Lapel Cleaners. It's an interesting approach that they're taking, and good to get some insight on some helpful advice too, Kevin, that maybe we can employ in our homes as we're washing our clothes to preserve them for longer, but also make sure that when that soap and that water, that detergent goes down the drain, it's making as minimal of an impact on our waterways as possible.
Man, I never really thought about the environment effect, on, that dry cleaning has. I never thought about that before, but it's always good to have that information. Better sooner than never. But I will say this, now that I am conscious of that, I will take more time to actually read these and be more conscious of it because, now that I know, I don't want to contribute to the problem overall. So yes, that was a great information, great interview again.
Yeah, lovely approach that they're taking. We know that they're not alone in taking that approach here in our community either. So good insight from Jake and our team on that topic here at Civic Center TV. It helps to impact when we help our environment. It impacts our green spaces that often become parks. And Kevin, a lot of action going to be going on in just a few minutes over at Rose Sorter Park on Saturday as the annual egg hunt from Keagle Harbor Parks and Rec. It kicks off at 11 o'clock. And when they say 11 o'clock, Kevin, they mean 11 o'clock sharp. That's when the eggs are released. That's when the hunt begins, and it's over in a couple of minutes. Like they've made it clear to us. When they say 11 o'clock is the start time, it's done at 11:02. Going to be a lot of fun out at Rose Sorter Park behind City Hall.
Whoa, 11:02. I thought you would at least say 11:05. My goodness. You gave me remnants of my mom and just saying, hey, when I say 11, I mean 11 o'clock. And you make sure you get there at that time. So, yeah, obviously they have other activities. The whole thing isn't over in just 2 minutes, but the egg hunt itself is over. That was so funny when you said that.
Hey, look, you go there for the egg hunt. You stay there for all the fun activities and hanging out with the community. The Keagle Harbor Police Department, I mean, they put it probably best.
Yeah.
They put on their Facebook page, quote, let's just say it starts at 10:45, and if you have to wait a few minutes,
Real talk.
That's okay, because a lot of kids going to show up from throughout the heart of the lakes, and only going to be so many eggs out there. But, Kevin, they got an entire room filled of them. I was over at Keagle Harbor City Hall yesterday. Everybody is excited for this happening on Saturday. Really cool stuff and fun stuff happening in Keagle Harbor. And Kevin, the honors continue here in the greater West Bloomfield area for our West Bloomfield girls basketball team. Of course, state champions just a little over a week ago in East Lansing. Summer Davis earlier this week announced as Michigan's Max Prep Player of the Year. And now M Live also providing our Lakers some honors. Summer was named M Live's Player of the Year, both Summer and India on their all-star team, on their first team. Coach Darren McAllister named Coach of the Year, all-state honors. And also, in addition, Kendall Hendricks and Sheridan Beal mentioned either on the second team or as honorable mentions by M Live. A continued mass of honors for this team that really took the state by storm in 2024 as they accomplished a huge goal.
Hey, Tyler, man, tears of joy coming from me, man. Tears of joy. I'm so happy. And listen, like I said, I've known these girls for about 5 games, man. But, you know, I just feel like I watched them grow in that 5 games, man. I was there when they hit that shot that got them to the overtime where they won against Rockford at the breath. Listen, man, I'm just waiting for my championship ring in the mail. Congratulations, girls. Congratulations, coach. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I just want to remind all of you again, our full coverage from that entire championship weekend, both for the West Bloomfield girls and the week before for Orchard Lake St. Mary's boys basketball teams, both D1 champs, online, CivicCenterTV.com. Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live. We thank you for joining us on today's edition of the program. For our entire team here at Civic Center TV, Calvin Brown, Jake Schaff, and Kevin McIntosh, I'm Tyler Keefe. Thank you for being with us today.